One guy who was right, by the way, who said they were not going to bring him up on the major league roster. I don't know who the 40-man move is. Have you seen that at this point? I have
There
not.
doesn't need to be one at the moment because Adam Hazley is technically off the 40-man roster. So he can slip in right for now. The Phillies do have Simone Muzziotti on the restricted list as well. You got to think at some point he'll come back and they'll need to make a move.
Okay, so that's good information out of you. Because I'm, it's happening in the moment. I did not realize Hasty. I forgot he is on the.
I will say too, with all the COVID guys right now, technically they don't occupy the 40-man either. So there's a little maneuverability.
Right now, Alvarado was on the COVID list. He's now up. Moore was on the COVID list. He's now up. Who's still on the COVID list? Do you have that off the head?
Great question. I guess that would be Torreyes then. I think he's the only one left out of the active roster.
So Moore is up. Alvarado's up. Howard is back. Now, I thought Girardi brought up some interesting things about Howard today. He said they're going to try to stretch him out. Essentially, he might be starting games sooner than later, it sounds like, because their initial wonky plan with him doesn't seem to be working. Moore is awful. Anderson's not very good. They got to have another option in that spot, and maybe Howard's it.
Yeah, I think they're reversing their position on this. Their original position was we don't want to make it so that we use all his innings up and then later in the season that you don't have him. So I honestly I think it makes more sense. Get him going right now. You absolutely need him, and then maybe you can make a move in July if you need to patch things up. But remember a few years ago, well, many years ago at this point, I guess Steven Strasburg with the Nationals, like they limited his innings, and the Nationals didn't have him for the playoffs, and that seems silly. So I think now they're realizing that they need a good Spencer Howard in the rotation now more than they're worried about September at the moment.
All right, tonight Herrera will play center field and bat seventh. Are you surprised that they find? I mean, it didn't take long. It was about 20 games before they made this decision. You didn't think it was going to happen.
Well, you know what? Once Adam Hazley disappeared, and I mean that with all due respect. I mean he was no longer in the equation, right? So then all of a sudden.
And by the way, this isn't a hey, you were wrong. It was you didn't think he was going to be here because, and now you're explaining some things have happened that have changed that.
I just tweeted a few minutes ago, like for this to happen, 4 guys had to fail: Hazley, Quinn, Kingery, Moniak. That's a big deal when you talk about a 25-man roster and 4 players can't get the job done. It really had to come to all that. And I think the Phillies are just reaching a point where they need to make moves. You see Brad Miller starting in left, like because Andrew McCutchen's not hitting, so they're going to put Miller in the outfield today. So I think they're realizing it's time to start doing some things. And to be honest with you, I think this also shows that as soon as Herrera is in, if he fails to, they'll go somewhere else. I think they're at a point now where they mean business, and the guys weren't getting it done. I mean, who would have thought Roman Quinn would be that bad? Or if you went to Mickey Moniak in a pinch, he would be that bad, right? So, and I still think they think highly of him, and Kingery's just completely fallen off the face of the earth. So, this is really a lot had to happen for this move to be made.
All right, so 2016 Herrera makes an All-Star game. He was their best player essentially for 2 seasons. He was better in 16. He was still okay in 17.
Yeah, somehow he beat out David Lowe and Cedric Hunter to make the All-Star team.
In 18 and 19, he really starts to drop off. I mean, I was at the point in 18 and 19, I was get him out of the lineup. He stinks. So spring training, he gets 52 at-bats, shows a little power, 230. What Odubel Herrera, what does he offer this team, if anything?
He's just another guy. And you know what? He's next on the list after 4. After 4 failed, he's the next one on the list. So I think at this point they're like, okay, come up.
So let me ask you this question.
Bad.
Let me ask you this question then,
Fine.
Frank. They gave Hazley's a different situation. He
Right.
kind of had an issue. He left the team. Nobody really knows why or what happened there. Fine. Roman Quinn has gotten less than 20 games. Moniak got less than 10 games. So how many games does Herrera get to show that he can play?
That's a great question. I mean, I think they've already made the statement that they don't feel the obligation to keep him if he's not useful. And to them, 222 at spring training showed he wasn't useful. Joe Girardi called him inconsistent. they can't handle inconsistency. I mean, I think they're hoping that he comes up and has a few good games. But if I was with you all along, Mike. I mean, I think we were the two voices that didn't particularly love his performance in 2018 and 2019 before any of the other issues. So, he's the type of guy he could go 3 for 4 one day and drive in a couple of runs, and then the next 4 games goes 0 for 12, right? So I think they're just hoping to catch him on some of the good days because they need something, anything, right?
Yes.
So we're at the point in the season that, the Phillies aren't capitalizing. The Braves just lost a doubleheader to the Arizona Diamondbacks, right? That were supposed to be not necessarily in contention, right? So Braves are kind of falling apart. The Mets haven't really created any distance either ahead of them. The Nationals have their issues. Strasburg's hurt again. The Phillies need to capitalize on this right now. They just can't go any longer. Well, so they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle, I guess.
I want to because again, I just went over. I don't know how many games Quinn has got to prove his worth, but it wasn't more than 20. They haven't even played 20. Moniak got less than 10. Was this all just a dog and pony show and just say we wanted Herrera here, but we didn't want to have him start the season? We wanted him to serve some penalty?
No, I don't think this has anything to do with that. I really do think it was a baseball decision. And when you looked at their 4 guys, all the upside, I mean, I honestly think Adam Hazley, if he was around, he could at least hit you 225 that you could live with. Roman Quinn, he's never been this bad. He's had some months where he's hit 100 in his career, but you expected more than this. And, I think even after that bad base running decision the other night, he thrown out a third. In a way, I think they're kind of over him at this point. So, talented guy, 223 hitter on his career, but he's given them absolutely nothing. I mean, he's got a negative .2 WAR at this point this year, right? So, in other words, any player off the bench is better than him. Except the problem is all the players off the bench are even worse than that. So, they had to do something to get this team going. They're that far down. They're starting to show they're a little bit desperate, I think, in some ways with some of these moves, but. Again, Miller's in left, leading off. You have Herrera in the lineup now. They're really, really trying here to see what they can do to sort of jumpstart this team and take advantage of the fact that some of these other teams in the division really aren't separating themselves either.
Yeah, I do want to remind people, Herrera hit 222 with 1 home run in 2019 when he got suspended. And he was hitting 255 with 22 home runs. If he hits 255 with 22 home runs, which is what he hit in 2018, in the 7-hole, wouldn't the team be doing backflips?
Yeah, and honestly, that's passable, but at the same time, too, like this guy hasn't played against Major League hitting on any regular basis in a long time. So, but you're almost on the 2-year anniversary of that, right? Because that was Memorial Day weekend 2019. So, I remain skeptical that he's going to hit Major League pitching with any consistency with that long a layoff. I mean, that's a pretty big layoff.
Oh, there's no doubt. And look, people forget he served an 85-game suspension in 19. The Phillies also didn't. I mean, so you could essentially say they suspended him, quote unquote, again last year. I mean, they didn't play him for 60 games last season. I mean, they could have. Under the rules of baseball, he was eligible, and the Phillies chose not to play him last year. So you could say that not only did he serve an 85-game suspension, the Phillies penalized him again.
Well, I think the problem was, he didn't get a chance to really show that he was worthy of it for baseball reasons. I mean, the Phillies did say pretty straightforward back then last spring 2020 that Herrera, really needs to demonstrate that he can perform at the level again. I mean, they said he was not good when even when he got arrested. And then even after a suspension, right, he didn't play all that time. He's got to show that he can still hit Major League pitching. I mean, that's a long time to be out. And, of course, last year, who knows what would have happened if the season wasn't truncated in the way it was. But even last year, they had more up-and-comer outfielders that they could use, and they didn't really feel the need. And really, Adam Hazley's absence really did I want to say mess things up because I don't want to fault him if it sounds like it's a serious issue, but when you subtract somebody like Adam Hazley, who you really believed had a good amount of upside, you're just down go down the list, right? So
no, I mean the way you kind of map it out, I think there's a thought on both sides. The way you mapped it out was like 4 things had to happen. Kingery was horrible. He took himself out. Hasely had an unfortunate situation. That kind of brought him out. Quinn has been terrible, and Moniak has been terrible. Now, you can make the argument that neither Quinn nor Moniak has been given a fair shake. I don't know. I mean, is that fair to say? Because then Girardi said today, well, we didn't think he got enough at-bats, so we wanted him to get more at-bats. He got 50 at-bats at the alternate site. To me, that kind of that to me is the dog. Oh, I got 50 at-bats, so now we think he's ready. I mean, come on. So 50 at-bats, he's ready. The other guys didn't get 50 at-bats, but they stink.
Yeah, that's a very valid point you make. I mean, I think there still is some sentiment that they really did not want him back. They don't want to appear they're endorsing the type of behavior he was accused of. But
right, I think there was definitely a moral wrestling match going on here.
I think so, and let's be very honest. There will be a lot of fans that are happy to see him, and many that are not happy to see him. So it's also a PR kind of nightmare too for them as well, because there will be some people that are very upset. And let's face it too. People that have been victims of domestic violence, when they encounter people that they're familiar with the allegation, right? I'm not going to say he did it or didn't do it, because I certainly was not present, and he was acquitted. But just his presence is enough to sort of bring back those memories for people that might have been victims. And so some people will be very, very upset that this happened, just because they're reminded perhaps of their own violence in their own life. So this very delicate situation here to walk. I really think that it would have served all parties better if Herrera had asked for his release and was given his release a while back, that he could have sort of, started anew somewhere else, and the Phillies could have started anew with somebody else. So I think they were in some respects trying to avoid this, if at all possible. But again, for baseball reasons now, they're really stuck. I mean, this isn't the time of year where you can trade for somebody to play center field. You usually need to wait till teams are out of it. That could still happen down the line if they can find a move before the July 31st trade deadline. They might do so. But again, if Herrera doesn't provide value on the baseball field, at this point, they have no reason other than to cut him.
All right, there you go. The breaking news, the Phillies have called up Odubel Herrera. He's batting seventh and playing center field tonight. Moniak has been sent down. Howard has been sent down. Alvarado is up, so we'll hopefully see the bullpen get a little bit. They're the worst bullpen in baseball again, or the National League again, over 5 ERA. So you lost a couple pieces. But that being said, the bullpen has been shaky. The back end of the rotation, really shaky. Center field, really bad. Leadoff, been bad. So let's see how Herrera goes. He's in the lineup tonight, hitting seventh. All right, Frank, thanks for jumping on, man.
No problem. Anytime, Mike.
All right, he'll be on tomorrow with the mailbag. We'll get a little bit more in depth with his Phillies conversation, but him jumping on board for the Herrera news, like all guests appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.